And so we have to bring the three into one. That is the generation stage, the single pointedness, and the vase empowerment. And so we need to, what it means is that we need to realize, in the context of the vase empowerment, we need to realize the view of empty appearances. And so that's the ultimate result of the vase empowerment. It is said that the fruition of the vase empowerment is to realize the Nirmanakaya. And the Nirmanakaya, it means emanation body. And so emanation or emanating, what it means is that whatever appears is an emanation, meaning that it lacks any inherent existence. It's illusory by nature. So we see it, we perceive it, but we also understand that it lacks any true inherent existence. So it means that one does not think it's real, but also you don't think that it's not real. The view of appearance emptiness is a view that is without any thought, any grasping whatsoever. So then when you continue on within that state, you achieve a state of one-pointedness. And in that way, you unify the generation stage and one-pointedness. So in the generation stage, when we visualize a Yidam deity, often the Yidam deity has many faces and legs and so on, many different parts to it. And even to myself, I find it quite difficult often to visualize that. And especially when there is a lot of things to visualize, that's quite difficult for beginning practitioners. So instead, the way we can practice a deity is, for example, according to the co-emergent or the innate chakra samvara, for example, or the co-emergent form of chakra samvara, where it is just chakra samvara and the consort, and not with many faces and arms and legs and so on. So when we visualize the deity, how we understand the deity is through the speech. We understand, also through the form of the deity, we understand the quality of the deity's speech, and through the speech, the mind. And so then from these qualities of body, speech, and mind appear the aspects of activity and enlightened qualities. And so the many faces and the hands and the legs of a deity, they represent the various qualities and activities of the deity. And they are all represented simultaneously through the appearance of the deity's form. For example, the Yab-Yum aspect of Samantabhadra and so on. What they represent is the deities in union themselves represent the union of appearance, emptiness, or bliss and emptiness. And so this is when the clear appearance of the deity arising in one's mind is what we refer to as the generation stage. And so for beginners, it's good to visualize a deity like Chakra Samvara, a co-emergent deity, the co-emergent Chakra Samvara in the Yab-Yum aspect, where you visualize the deity appearing like your body, basically with two hands and two legs and one face. So that's the innate or the co-emergent deity. And so even though on the outer level it appears that the Yab and the Yum, the deities, are separate, their inner mind is actually not separate. It's one and the same. Actually, what creates this illusory perception of separation is our thoughts of a concrete existence, our belief in a concrete existence. This is what kind of defiles our perception. And when you separate from such thinking and abide single-pointedly, then you naturally understand how it is said within the expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. So within the expanse, there is no separation within the ultimate expanse. So This is how we practice in one moment, in one instant, the appearing yet empty aspect of the generation stage and one-pointedness. So actually, first when you practice the generation stage, the appearing and empty aspect of the form, it is through this practice that you achieve one-pointedness. So one-pointedness is the result of the generation stage. And then once it is achieved, you will naturally abide within this lucid state of appearance and emptiness, single-pointedly. So again, the clarity aspect of those three aspects of generation stage is the clear appearance of the deity that appears with great affection for the deity, just like a mother sees her child. And then the various appearances of the deity, the implements and the ornaments and so on, they are seen as the natural qualities, the natural pure qualities of the deity. For example, one implement or ornament of the deity is a necklace made out of skulls, human heads, severed human heads. And now what they represent, they have a meaning. In the Vajrayana, everything has a symbol has a meaning. What they represent is the severed human heads represent our thoughts. And when one-pointedness is achieved, thoughts are severed. They're cut through. So which is like cutting off a head, the head of someone. When you cut off someone's head, then they can't do anything anymore. And so likewise, when you cut through the thoughts, then they can't do anything anymore. So that is also what Milarepa referred to before when he said that when you grasp at the characteristics of samsara, which actually has no basis or root, that is just a diluted conceptuality. So what the one that kind of attributes or kind of assigns a root or a meaning to everything is our thought, our thinking. And so somebody who is a skilled meditator will let these thoughts go, and the thoughts will naturally subside on their own. And that is like similar to like cutting off their head. Once you cut through them, they can't do anything anymore. And so that is what we refer to as the liberation of thoughts. So that is the clear appearance, and then there's the recollection of purity. And so regarding that, it is said the secret mantra, the Vajrayana, is shown through signs, symbols, and meaning. And so signs, symbol, first the symbol. A symbol is, for example, you see the severed heads, the human heads. So you see them and you say, oh, there is all these like severed heads. That's the sign. The symbol is that then these heads are worn as a necklace around the neck. And the meaning is, it is that you have cut through the thoughts. For example, if there's a burglar or a thief coming to your house and you kill them, then they can't do anything anymore. And so likewise, the thought is like the robber and the burglar. When you cut through them, you liberate them, then they can't do anything anymore. So that's the ultimate meaning to be understood here. So the sign or the signs and the symbols are the outer appearance of the inner meaning, represented by this outer, the various symbolic signs. But what it really means is, it refers to the mind. It is an outer reflection of an inner quality of non-grasping, of not entering into grasping, of abiding single-pointedly. And so now there are so many thoughts arising in our mind. And when you let them go and allow them to settle in their natural state, then that could be represented by this garland of human skulls. So when impure thoughts, are recognized, then they are purified, meaning that they dissolve on their own. For example, when you get angry and you recognize anger, and there's awareness of the anger, then the anger settles down and you will not start fighting. Instead, you will actually laugh. And also when the anger has settled down, what remains is a state of complete clarity. The mind is very clear. And that is why we call the anger the mirror-like wisdom. And so then from that perspective, actually, you recognize that actually the 5 afflictive emotions are good. In fact, in the Dzogchen practice, it is said that we need to have them. It is even said that you need to have fierce anger, and you need to have fierce desire. So the emotions need to be strong in the context of Dzogchen practice, because their true nature is recognized in that way. So through anger, when anger arises, anger, for example, is so powerful that it brings under control all the other thoughts, virtues or non-virtues. Anger outshines them all. And then when you recognize the anger, then you actually come to the natural state of the mind. And in that moment of recognition, the mind is completely clear. And that is the mirror-like wisdom. So when you recognize that, you will see that actually the practice of the generation stage, this appearance, is quite a powerful practice and a method for the mind to attain a state of stability. And really, it's not just some conceptual elaboration. So if you're able to stay with the visualization, you abide single-pointedly, and then eventually that becomes natural. So then, in that case, if you have achieved one-pointedness naturally, then actually you wouldn't need the visualization any longer. So that is when when there is no more grasping whatsoever at any time at form, sound, touch, and so forth, taste. When there is no more grasping at anything whatsoever, then you wouldn't need the visualization of the generation stage. That is, if you have accomplished that appearances are empty, that sounds are empty, and that awareness is empty. When you have realized these 3 vajras, then from that perspective, then the visualization, the generation is no longer necessary, because that is the ultimate fruition of the generation stage. It is to achieve such a one-pointed state. So in any case, you need to see the connection between them, between the generation stage and the Vase empowerment and the one-pointedness, and really reflect on it and think, is there really a connection or not? And that is why it's good to also ask questions about it to really clarify your understanding. And actually that benefits the person who is asking the question, but also the person who is answering the question. Also, this is just speaking from my own personal experience. So regarding the generation stage, there's something very important to understand here. And so we have said that so the generation stage consists of 3 aspects: the clarity, purity, and stability. And of these 3, the purity and stability are most important, and of these 2, the stability is most important, the stability which is the divine pride. So regarding the stability or the divine pride, now the clarity and purity are a little bit difficult to cultivate, but anyways, the stability is most important. So stability means to understand that one really is the deity, have this confidence. So, for example, if you're practicing Chenrezig, then you would reflect, am I really Chenrezig or not? So there's this feeling that arises where you think, I am Chenrezig. However, it's not simple as that, just thinking, I am Chenrezig. In the Ajut practice, Majid Labdran spoke of 4 maras according to the Jud, For example, the tangible and intangible and so on. And then there is one that's called the Mara, the demon of self-deceit. So you're deceiving yourself, which basically arises because there is some doubt. There is not a complete certainty in the mind. And that is that doubt of deceiving yourself, of self-deceit, that has to be cut through. It's through the divine pride. So first, when we visualize clearly and we reflect on purity, we might know that I am the deity, understand that. But then when we practice the divine pride or the stability, we really have to actually understand why am I the deity. That you have to really see, am I really the deity or not? So in all the practices, all the different sadhanas, for example, in the Vajrakhilaya sadhana, it says, since primordial times, you and me are indivisible. So ultimately, we all possess Buddha nature, and Buddha nature is primordially pure. And within that nature, so this is how it is explained in Dzogchen, and within that nature, the deity is naturally complete. So from that perspective, we are already connected to the deity. But the Buddha said, beings are obscured by adventitious stains. And that adventitious stain is this thought of me and I that needs to be purified. And how do we purify it? We purify it through immeasurable love. Even if you have not realized the ultimate view, the nature of the mind, you first cultivate immeasurable love, the self, this thought of the me will go away. That is why we start with refuge and the motivation of bodhicitta. First, starting with considering other sentient beings as most important and wishing to benefit them. So ultimately, we do possess Buddha nature. For example, in this world, even you might have 100 phones, but they're all powered by the same electricity. And so similarly, when you look at your own mind, the foundation, the basis of your mind and the deity's mind is one and the same. But then there still is this doubt, am I or am I not the deity? So we have not actually gained the confidence of being the deity by telling ourselves that we are the deity. So how we resolve it is by looking at our mind. So what really makes us the deity? The difference lies between the state of our mind being either in a state of self-grasping or altruism. Because it is said, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. These are the trustworthy words of the Buddha. The Buddha also said, all beings are obscured by adventitious stains, and when these stains are removed, they are actual Buddhas. So this stain to be removed is the dualistic thinking of self and other. And when you cultivate love and compassion, that thought of a self is brought under control. If you always think, may I benefit sentient beings, you think about all sentient beings, if there's always only love in your heart, then there will be no self arising, no selfish thought will arise. And so no matter which deity you practice, all deities have the same nature. You might have 100 deities, but they have a single life force. And this life force is their altruistic mind. And no matter which deity then you practice, you will attain freedom on the basis of the altruistic mind. So we have said within the expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. All the Buddhas have this one intention of wanting to benefit all sentient beings. And the practice of any deity, therefore, is an antidote to the grasping at a concrete reality. For example, if you practice Chenrezig is said to be an embodiment of compassion. And since that is the essence of all deities, Chenrezig is really the life force of all the deities. Any deity, whether it's a peaceful or wrathful deity, has a mind of love and compassion. There's not a single one who doesn't. If they would not have love and compassion, then they would just be a worldly god, not a wisdom deity. So all the deities arise on the basis of love and compassion. And since Chenrezig is an emanation of compassion, he is said to be the father of all the deities. And Tara, the great Dharmakaya, the Dharmakaya great mother, is said to be the mother of all the Buddhas, of all beings. And in union, the deities represent the nature of the mind, which is an innate unity of bliss and emptiness. When you rest within the natural state of the mind, that state is a state of great bliss. And great bliss is represented by the yap, the male aspect, and the empty aspect of that is the yum, the female. Or when we say clarity, emptiness, then clarity is the yap, and emptiness is the yum, the female. And so together, yap and yum in union represent the naturally unified state of the nature of one's mind, meaning that there is no separation. It's not two, but it's a unity. They're not separate. So when you recognize that this is my mind is on the basis fundamentally completely pure, and it can become anything. Whatever I think of, that is what I will become. My mind is like a mirror. When you understand the original purity, pure nature of your mind, then you really you can say with confidence that I am the deity. But then it can change momentarily, because what you think of is what you become. So when love and compassion arise in the mind, then I am the deity. But when self-grasping arises, then again I am like a demon. It changes momentarily. So if you never separate from love and compassion, you are the deity. And then any male person who possesses compassion is Chenrezig, and any female with compassion is Tara. So that is, like Tara and Chenrezig are like the general names given to beings with love and compassion, but it could be really any other deity that you practice as well. All the deities arise from love and compassion. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So then you reflect, I really do feel compassion for all beings. I want that the whole world is happy. I really feel that sincerely. So there's no doubt about it in my mind. If you think in this way, then you have gained this confidence of the divine pride. Or for example, if you have a companion, you would think that the male companion is Chenrezig and the female is Tara. Or you could think the male is Chakrasamvara and the female is Vajrayogini. So when you gain complete certainty in that, when you're completely certain, then that is what is called the stability or the divine pride. And so that confidence is extremely important. And then in this life, in future lives, or in the Bardo, by merely thinking of the deity, there will be no thought of a self. And when there is no thought of a self, all these adventitious stains will be gone. When there is no doubt in the mind that you're confident that you are the deity, then it is like you see everyone that way. Because you have realized our mental continuum is one and the same. It is just like, for example, if you're male, for example, then you might practice Chakrasamvara, and because the mental continuum is one, it's like you become the child and he's the father. So the point is that you gain complete certainty, and through this confident certainty, the grasping at a me, the self, will diminish. So when you have gained stability in love and compassion, this is how it actually becomes. And also, it's not just yourself, but it's also the nature of all sentient beings. They are also just like that. It is just that temporarily sentient beings are afflicted and their adventitious stains are a little bit thick, but still their true nature is Buddha. For example, the nature of an animal's mind is still the Buddha, is still one and the same. When you see that, you realize that everything that appears and exists is an infinite field of purity. Everything is pure. And whatever appears is the natural reflection of one's own mind. Temporarily, the reflection of the 5 afflictive emotions. And so in order to let go of them, you need to actually first recognize the fault in your own afflictive emotions, and then you are able to let go of the impure aspect. And so that is the meaning of the Vase empowerment. Whatever deity you practice, for example, you practice Chakrasamvara, Vajrayogini, and so on, this is how a pure perception arises through the generation stage. And so again, it comes from understanding that all physical form is compounded and therefore empty of self-nature, so therefore appearances are empty appearances. And the mind is, the nature of the mind is empty bliss, meaning that emptiness and bliss are not separate. So then that needs to be sustained. This awareness is sustained in all activities, whatever Yidam deity you practice, in all your activities of your day-to-day life, whether you are standing or sitting or walking or lying down, you never separate from the deity. And that is then abiding within a state of one pointedness. It all becomes of one essence. So that is the result of the generation stage that will be achieved through such practice. And that is the point then where you recognize that everything that appears and exists is the divine form of the deity, meaning everything, not just I am the deity, not just yourself, but all others also are originally pure, primordially pure. So if you reflect in this and practice in this way, then the practice of the deity becomes much more powerful. So the connection between the Vase empowerment and the generation stage is, we learn about that during the empowerment when we receive the 4 levels of the empowerment. And so for example, in the new tantric system, there is a way the empowerment is explained, is conferred, and then also in the old tantric system, the Nyingma, there is a way the empowerment is introduced to the disciple. So there's different ways of explanation, but either way, as we have said, the practice must become an experience. So for example, if you would compare the different empowerment texts that give an introduction to the meaning of the empowerment, and then compare it to the experience that you have gained yourself personally of one pointedness and the generation stage, through such bringing together of the explanation and your own experience and so on, you will gain a deeper understanding. So we have said the Vase empowerment is connected to the generation stage. Then the secret empowerment is connected to freedom from elaboration. So these first 2 empowerments are like the path of preparation or application. And then the wisdom empowerment and the word empowerment, the last 2, are called the path of skillful means. They are the path of the ultimate fruition that show the actual meaning, the inner meaning of the empowerment. So for example, nowadays, everywhere in the world, really, there are many people who practice the 6 yogas of Naropa, and that is generally an excellent thing to do because it makes it brings great meaning to this precious human life. It makes our life meaningful. But then what's really important is that what's more important than just to do the practice is to actually imbue this practice with a personal experience. You have to experience what you are practicing it. So are you experiencing the 4 joys, the 4 levels of bliss, and their connection to the 4 empowerments and the 4 yogas? So it must become an actual personal experience. As Milarepa had said, the meditation must be imbued with an experience. And also Milarepa had said that the different the so-called different levels, bhumis and paths, different stages of the path, are the increasing clear appearance of emptiness. So an increasing clarity on the meaning of emptiness. And that is gained through experience. And then Milarepa continued and said, so in order for this to arise, one must watch continuously for kind of growth signs, kind of like landmarks that give you a sign of knowing, like a measure of knowing where you are at. So emptiness, there are like certain signs that appear that indicate like indications that then a clarity of emptiness is increasing, is arising. So the practice, for example, of the 6 yogas of Naropa must be done by watching for these indications of developing practice, developing experience. So, for example, one practice of the 6 yogas is the practice of Dhammo, and the Dhammo practice must be imbued with an actual experience. So we practice Dhammo, for example, in the context of a 3-year retreat, and if you have engaged in this practice, then you have to ask yourself, have I actually gained the experience, have I experienced it? How is that experience related to the 4 empowerments? So we have said the 4 empowerments are divided into these 2 paths, the paths of preparation and then the paths of skillful means. And then they also are related to the 4 levels of Mahamudra. And ultimately, the wisdom empowerment and the word empowerment really illustrate the meaning of the state of non-meditation of the 4 levels of Mahamudra. So during an empowerment is a path of skillful means because skillfully, in an instant, in just one moment, everything is shown. The whole meaning of the 4 levels of Mahamudra and the ultimate level of non-meditation, the stages of the path of meditation are all shown skillfully in a single moment by receiving the empowerment. And on how we attain instantly the 4 levels, or we are instantly shown the 4 levels of one-pointedness, freedom from elaboration, one taste, and non-meditation. So that is why it is called a skillful path, because we are being introduced to that in a one moment. And so Milarepa had also said, that in order to gain the experience of bliss and emptiness, one must rely on the path of skillful means, and the path of skillful means relies on the transmission of the oral instructions that we receive. So we are given instructions, oral instructions, and then on the basis of these we practice and we gain an actual experience. For example, of the 6 levels of the 6 yogas of Naropa. So what is the experience, for example, that is gained in the 6 yogas of Naropa? In the Ganges Mahamudra, it says, it summarizes it by saying, first it rises, it rises, kind of pervades, it goes down, then it rises, then it stops. Sorry, it goes down, it stops, it rises, and then it pervades all the channels and places of the body. So going down, stopping, and rising, these levels are actually related to the 4 yogas of Mahamudra, of one-pointedness, freedom from elaboration, one taste, and non-meditation. And that is what we are introduced to in one moment, in a short time, during receiving an empowerment, this skillful path. And then, as we said, this skillful path must be practiced. We must gain experience. So that is something I ask you to really take to heart. The meditation must become an actual experience. So you must gain an actual experience of the single-pointedness and the one taste and so on. So the skillful path, we have said, of the empowerment is related to the one taste and non-meditation. That the empowerment shows us all at the same time. And the empowerment is also related to the experience gained, for example, of the Dumo. So in essence, through the words, the introduction of the empowerment, we need to be able to bring together into one all these four, the four yogas and the four levels of joy and so on. They all need to be brought into one. And so then we also bring to mind Milarepa's words when we hear these instructions. And also we remember the words being said during the empowerment. And then after that, we put them into practice. And by actually putting them into practice, we are practicing the 4 levels of Mahamudra. And then, as Milarepa had said, we come back to Milarepa's quote, we need to have an indication. We need to look for the indication that signal that we have achieved a certain experience. It is said that a sign of meditation is a lack of being controlled by afflictive emotions. So then you have to see for yourself, am I or am I not transforming the afflictions into primordial wisdom? So that is like the indication that it signals that are you actually able to transform the afflictions into primordial wisdom and see them that way. So this is how you should practice and reflect. So generally, we are extremely fortunate for being able to do this practice. So that is a great fortune that we have. However, whether or not we have actually gained an experience, we have actually reached a certain level, is something that we can really just see for ourselves by like looking out for these indications. So then, ultimately, the ultimate fruition of the 4 empowerments, Milarepa had said, within bliss, you find emptiness, and within emptiness you find clarity, within clarity you find awareness. So this is how it is from the perspective of an actual experience. So this is how I have experienced it, and I'm sharing this experience with you, my Dhamma friends, to the best of my abilities. If there are any shortcomings, anything wrong in my explanation, then the great scholars can say that. For example, you can also ask them about it, because I myself don't have much learning. I'm just really speaking very directly from my heart, from my own personal experience. So you should go and ask your other teachers, the lamas, the great scholars, and tell them that this is what Garchen Rinpoche said. Is it true? And then if they say it's true, then you can put that into practice. So this is my own personal experience in any case. And so, again, through the Vase empowerment, we must realize the empty nature of appearances. Through the secret empowerment, we realize the empty nature of clarity, emptiness. Through the wisdom empowerment, we realize the empty nature of bliss. And through the 4th word empowerment, we realize the empty nature of awareness. And that is also called the Vajra of the mind Vajra. And this is how I really kind of bring together the meaning of the 4 empowerments with the different bhumis and the paths, the different levels of practice, from my own personal experiential perspective. So regarding the empty awareness, the Vajra of the mind, actually there is also one quote, again, by the Vidyadhara Jigme Lingpa that I've seen in a book. And so in there it explains the Vajra of the mind, really. And now, again, what I'm sharing with you is really just advice from the heart, from my own experience. And actually, after I've seen this quote personally, I really felt that this is what I hold on to. This is the one thing that I hold on to. And this is the one thing really that is the essence of all practice. That's really all you need, this one quote. So the quote goes, aside from sustaining awareness with stability, nothing else is needed. So that's the quote. And so actually one time in the past when I met Sogyal Rinpoche, Sogyal Rinpoche asked me to write down something, one line on some paper. And so this is the line that I wrote down. Aside from sustaining clear awareness with stability, nothing else is needed. And he really was very happy about it. He liked that. And so what that means is sustaining, aside from sustaining clear awareness with stability, nothing else is needed. When you apply that directly to your practice, that needs to be applied to your practice. So clear awareness. And what is clear awareness? So normally we say the mind is either consciousness or primordial awareness. If it is consciousness, it is called consciousness if it perceives a dualistic existence of self and other. If it does not perceive duality, it is primordial awareness, primordial wisdom. It is one awareness about the differences, seeing a duality or not. So if you do not see a dualistic existence of self and other, and even if an afflictive emotion arises, it will naturally disappear. It is just like the coming together of fire and wood. For example, anger. Actually, anger can be used as like an indicator, like a measurement, because anger is a very fierce affliction. But on the other hand, it is also said that anger is more easy to liberate, actually. Because anger is related to suffering. It's an unpleasant thought. So it's easier to liberate the anger. Whereas it is said that desire, attachment, is more difficult to liberate because it is related to bliss, to a pleasurable experience. So now anger, for example, when we take anger as an example, what does it mean to liberate it? So for example, when strong anger arises, you get really angry, and you recognize it and look at the anger directly, then actually in that moment the mind is so clear that you actually suddenly feel really exhilarated, and you start laughing even. So that's the power of the anger, and this is the experience that you gain by practicing with the anger. And then you do the same with all the other afflictive emotions. Whatever afflictive emotion arises. And then as they arise, they just dissolve on their own. So that is the experience of empty awareness or empty clarity, empty bliss. Emptiness means that there must be no grasping. You must not grasp at anything that arises. That's really the essence of clear awareness, sustaining clear awareness with stability. It is to abide, to stay without latching on, without clinging to anything. So that is to stay without defilement. And nothing else is needed. And so then the quote continues, even 100 scholars or 1,000, like retreat masters and 10,000 pith instructions and 100,000 different like treatises and so on. Nothing you wouldn't nothing you wouldn't find anything greater than that in any of these instructions. This is the ultimate instruction by Jigme Lingpa. And these words are really words that I am holding very close to my heart, because these words really are the core of all practice. And I do believe that this is something that my Dharma friends can take and apply it to their practice. So this completes my introduction to the nature of the 4 empowerments and how everything is connected, the 4 empowerments and the 4 joys and the 4 levels of the 4 yogas of Mahamudra. And so I explained these to you to the best of my abilities. It's like a mandala offering to you, Dharma friends. Dashidelek. And so then there's one more important thing I want to say that I regard as important. And that is a line from the Heart Sutra where it says, it is the sphere, the scope of self, so the perfection of wisdom is the sphere of self-knowing primordial awareness. So what it means is that when you see the nature of the mind, then the ordinary consciousness becomes primordial wisdom. And then when that happens, all that appears and exists becomes a vast field, an infinite field of purity. Then you realize that, and you realize that the way things appear is your own mind. So it's most important that you see the nature of the mind. And so for me personally, this has been of the greatest benefit. And because of this that I really do not see much difference between pure and impure any longer. And it's really due to the kindness of that quote too from the Heart Sutra, which I think is extremely important. And then another one is also a quote by Jungme Phuntsok, and that is that do not lose the stability of your own awareness and do not disturb the minds of others. And actually, if you never lose the stability of your own awareness, then there is no more. One will not see any reason to disturb the minds of others. There is no way you will disturb the minds of others, because then everything has become an infinite field of purity already. So in any case, Dharma friends, this is my mandala offering to you, and it would be good if you wouldn't forget these words. So this term, this concept, this infinite field of purity, if we just hear these words, we won't really understand what they mean. But what the Dharma King, Jigung Dhammaratsa, had said, that clarifies that point, is that when you see everything that appears and exists as the divine form of the deity, you have perfected, you have mastered the generation stage of the secret mantra. So what that means is that you realize that on the basis, fundamentally, your nature, everything is completely pure and empty in essence. The nature is clear, the essence is empty. And as the Buddha said, things are only temporarily impure. So if you understand that, then just naturally everything becomes pure. Or no, we speak about the natural clarity and purity on the basis. In the Dzogchen, for example, it's called the original purity. But the meaning is that everything, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana, are primordially pure, and all faults are only momentary, temporary appearances. So all of these quotes actually do agree with what the Buddha himself had said when he said, we are only obscured by adventitious stains. So when you just understand this point, then it becomes quite easy to liberate all kinds of thoughts in the mind, pure and impure thoughts. And then there is another quote by Jigten Sumgön that comes from the Gongchik, and he said that the generation stage is primordially established, meaning that it is the primordial nature of your own mind, because the mind's nature is clarity and emptiness, and that is the nature of the generation stage, the clear appearance and the empty essence of that appearance, and that is the nature of your mind. And so this is how the generation stage of the deity is primordially established within your own mind. So the emptiness aspect here, emptiness here means that there is no grasping at the duality. And in this year, I had the opportunity to give many different teachings, and that is mainly because the center and the various centers have organize these teachings, the centers and the volunteers and so on. And so mainly I'm thanking, to represent them all, I'm thanking Christina and Khenpo Tenzin for also giving these, making it possible to have these teachings to clear away the suffering of sentient beings. So I would like to say thank you for that. And so again, thank you to all of the centers, but now mainly Christina and Garchen Rinpoche, and then all the volunteers and so on, for giving me this opportunity to give these teachings. So, Tashi Deleg, and thank you. And so then Ina, the translator, translates everything effortlessly. Thank you.